Good evening and welcome everybody to episode 2 of the Lekker Lounge. I hope you're feeling suitably excited because we certainly all are, especially after seeing that brief VT there. I think it's safe to say excitement levels are getting very, very high indeed. And that's because of all the positivity we've had over the last few days. We've been taking some tentative steps towards South Africa 2021 over the past few weeks and months. I think it's fair to say we're taking some pretty bold strides now with news of vaccines and travel restrictions being lifted. We can look forward with genuine optimism and hope to what will be an absolutely epic tour. So we're going to be previewing that tonight, thinking about all the adventures we're all going to be having in just a few months' time. And we've also got an absolutely all-star lineup, and that is no exaggeration. 2 of the finest props to have ever graced the international game, and that is no exaggeration. They are 2 bona fide legends, and conveniently, they locked horns on the last South Africa tour, the last time the Lions took on South Africa. You'll all remember that one, that epic in 2009, the one that got away from a British and Irish perspective. We will, of course, be catching up very soon with Tendai Beast Mtawarira and Adam the Bomb Jones, both of whom will be coming on very shortly. It's not just about the rugby, though. You guys are all intrepid travellers, adventurers. We're going to be talking a bit about the travel situation as things stand, and I think it's safe to say you can all get your rucksacks out the closet and start dusting off those passports, because it's looking very much game on for this tour. And also, as well as travel and rugby, the 2 main passions behind this project, we've got a charitable arm as well. That's something which is very important to the company. And you may already have heard of the Million Rand Foundation, a foundation set up in conjunction with Beast to benefit 5 very worthy causes in South Africa. And as a part of the preparations leading into this, MSG and all the loyal followers will be donating, I'm sure, very generously as we hope to reach that Million Rand target. I'm told we're nearly a quarter of the way there already, with the tour more than 6 months away. So we'll be getting a lot more news on that. So why don't you make yourselves comfortable, pull up a pew, pour yourself a nice glass of South African Cabernet Sauvignon, or maybe a mug of tea, if that's your preference. It's going to be a very entertaining hour, I can guarantee you that. You can probably see on the screen there Mr. Mark Gardner, the big cheese, the boss man of MSG, in his office, very conscientious as always, burning the midnight oil. Mark, we're going to speak to you first, because I've mentioned the Million Rand Foundation, and the fact it benefits 5 charities personally selected by the Beast out in South Africa. Perhaps you can give us a little bit more information on how it came about and how important it is to MSG.
Yeah, great. I just love that video, the one that played at the start there. I could watch that all day, every day. It just captures the whole country in one nice little nugget. And for our supporters and for the staff and the event planners on the trip, it's really important to underline that term, responsible travel, wanting to create a huge impression and just remind people that traveling to a country like South Africa, doing good, and leaving that legacy, and being part of a project is crucial. So we've worked very closely with one of our guests this evening, and also established 4 other charities in and around South Africa that have very significant purposes to each region that we're going to. So, for example, we're working with a Scrum charity in Eswatini that has a very consistent fight to raise the messaging of HIV in the Kingdom of Eswatini, working with Pink Drive in Soweto, the Good Sport Foundation in Cape Town, and also little bits and pieces to other projects around South Africa that might not have the sort of the panache of a big donation, but little bits and pieces here and there that make significant differences as we move around the country. And tonight there's no better night to launch it this evening with the Beast on the show.
So the official launch tonight, the Just Giving page is up and running. As I say, some donations have already started trickling in, including a couple of very generous ones from MSG. Can you tell us a bit about those?
Well, the first one really is down to all the fantastic customers that are booked with us. We put it out to our customers. It was an idea from one of the team last month that we run our payments online, and for 1 month only for the scheduled payment, if the consumers chose to pay via bank transfer instead of paying by card, which doesn't underline their consumer protection. We're an atoll bonded and add to business. So every penny is financially secure, no matter how you pay us. If by doing one small thing of paying via a different method, then it helps to fill a nice little pot. And we raised, I believe it's £1,422 just by asking our customers to do something slightly differently with one of their payments. So 1422 is into the pot and goes that little bit further to raise in the £1 million, which at the time of exchange, when we planned the project, was just over £46,000.
Incredible. And we saw the site briefly there. So if people are watching and they are keen to donate, is it just a simple case of logging on and giving your bank details?
It's scarily remarkably simple to make a pledge. The team have looked at a number of solutions this week, including Just Giving. We found that GoFundMe was the online platform that was simple, secure, but also enabled as much of the pound as possible to get to the end project. These processing sites have fees, and GoFundMe is the best one. So I know that this is being shared on our social feeds right now. It's being shared on the feed at the bottom of the page. It's as simple as going on, making a pledge, and knowing that every single pound is going some way to get into that £1 million.
Excellent stuff, Mark. And I understand as well, there's been some pretty exciting news. We're all thinking about and talking about the Lions Tour, but in terms of MSG's wider scope, you've had some brilliant news in the last couple of weeks, didn't you?
Yeah, it's been we celebrated our 5th anniversary a couple of weeks ago. The last 2 weeks have been golden, really. We celebrated at being 5, and the first week saw us get an announcement by World Rugby to be official travel agent for Rugby World Cup France in 2023, which we're understandably quite giddy about, and we're already seeing a huge levels of momentum from people all over the world to embark on journeys to follow their team around France.
So not only are you going on the Lions Tour, you'll be going to France 2023, and I know you've got connections in France as well and down in the Basque Country. It's a part of the territory that MSG has already got roots. So that will be one particularly close to your heart, I imagine.
Absolutely. I'm delighted that Stuart, who's the director of the business and is the head of our European operations in worst job title ever, head of European operations, running the show in Biarritz. Terrible. So he's giddy because the team that he's built there to represent us in Europe is suitably poised to just deliver an amazing experience, and the Basque Country will be part of our delivery in France. And if you look at the timeline, the Olympics follow in Paris in a couple of years after that, and it just spells a really nice decade of sport that really suits the staff that we've got and the type of services that we provide and the geographical areas that we work in. So yeah, all good.
Fantastic stuff. And we're going to get into this a bit later on in the show, but just give us a very brief idea about how the latest news regarding vaccines and travel restrictions and borders being tentatively opened up, just how much is that a positive message given some of the uncertainty and pessimism we've been dealing with over the last few weeks and months?
Well, I personally can't wait until tomorrow, because the news every day this week has just been fantastic. Who knows what's going to come out of the Prime Minister's mouth tomorrow? Because yesterday he told us that by the time the Easter Bunny comes, that it's all good. So if he said that, then mind you, we had said some similar things before about what 6 months would look like back in March 2020. But on the basis that the team at Oxford, the university there, and also the Pfizer vaccine and the third one, which I forget now, I think it's the American one that comes through. Somehow we've got 3 vaccines to choose from. We're looking at rollouts next week. Rachel's going to talk to us about what that means from a South African perspective. So you're right, the rucksack can be pulled out the closet. But even with all these things going on, that what we've seen over the course of the summer and the autumn is that you will never keep a Lions fan or a rugby fan from planning to go on a Lions tour, no matter what's going on in the world. So we've had some sort of tremendous sales over this period, and now all those that have been waiting for news like this, it's been a phenomenal week of sort of servicing those people that have been waiting for this news to drop. So yeah, all good this week.
All good. What a delightful week it's been in terms of good news. Quick message to our producer who's expertly handling things behind the scenes. I believe one of our special guests is trying to get in and is coming up against a password. So, Joe, if you're able to connect with the big man. I'm talking about Bomb, of course. Everyone knows he's coming on. If you could remind him of the password, he'll be joining us very, very shortly indeed. But I think it's probably time to bring in our first very special guest. I've mentioned him already. A remarkable rugby career spanning well over a decade, 117 caps for the Springboks. He is, of course, a winning Springbok in a Lions series, that epic series we mentioned way back in 2009, 12 years ago. Can you believe it? Incredible. But also, not only that, he has recently been declared a World Cup champion, part of that epic squad. Of course, beat England in the final. It seems like an eternity ago. It was only last year. I'm talking, of course, about the legend that is Tendai the Beast Mtawarira. It is an absolute pleasure to have you on board. There he is, all the way from South Africa. Greetings, dear boy. How are you? I hope it's not the delay, Tendai. We've tailed your answer there.
No, apologies. Yeah, I think I was just trying to, press on the unmute button there. But thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
It's an absolute pleasure, sir. We've heard Mark already talk very passionately and enthusiastically about the Beast Foundation and all the charitable work that will go along with the fun and the rugby and the travel that everyone's going to be enjoying in 2021. Do you want to just give us an idea of how important it is to you and why these charities are set to benefit so much?
Yeah, no, thank you, Ross. I think, the Beast Foundation is basically the brainchild for my journey, to make it as a professional rugby player. At the beginning of my journey, I came from Zimbabwe, and I came from poverty. I came from a really tough background, and I had this big dream of playing pro rugby. And along the way, obviously, the opportunity came, and then I also had a lot of people that assisted me, that obviously, helped me to get to where I wanted to get to. A lot of great mentors, and they played a pivotal role, in my career. So for me now, the Beast Foundation is a vehicle for me to give back in a big way and impact the lives of the next generation. So my vision is to basically empower the youth of Africa through the platforms of sport, education, and life skills development. So I want to go out there and create, future leaders that are going to make an impact, not just on the continent, even on, in the world, in a big way, be it in sports, be it in academics. So I really want to go out there and just, galvanize, this whole process of just inspiring the next generation.
It's a fantastic message, Tendai. And to those of us who've seen the Chasing the Sun documentary on South Africa's journey to World Cup glory, it's an amazing piece of television. And some of the things you've mentioned there kind of echoed within that documentary, the idea that it's bigger than sport, it's bigger than rugby. Something like this can inspire an entire nation.
Yes, indeed. It's very true. I guess, when we went on this journey, when Rassie came, obviously to be coach of the Springboks, we never really spoke about, going out there and inspiring people and everything. The first thing we looked at was actually, sorting out the rugby problem, because we weren't playing so well. So, Rassie was honest, right from the onset. He said that when we play rugby well, then we inspire people. When we win games, then we inspire South Africa. So he was very honest about that fact. So we went on this journey, and he told us to kind of get off our phones and not be on social media the whole time, because the fact of the matter, we didn't deserve to be on social media, because we weren't, we weren't at that, obviously that status, or, being successful and stuff. So we had to just, keep our heads down and work hard. And eventually, when we achieved that dream of winning that World Cup, we kind of highlighted on that fact that we wanted to show that victory is a symbol of hope for the country. At the time, South Africa was going through such a hard time, economically, socially, a lot of, problems. And we just needed, hope. We needed intervention. And obviously, the Springboks played that role, to significance. And winning that World Cup, meant so much more. And I guess that's why I see it's probably going to become the next president. But I guess it meant a lot. It meant a lot to win that World Cup.
I wouldn't put it past him. See her as president and maybe you as his vice president, or the other way around. Who knows?
No, let's definitely see a president. Or maybe the minister of defense or something, or food supply.
Minister, is there a minister of scrummaging?
Oh, geez, I wish there was.
You'd be overqualified for that role. That's the recent past. Take us way back now to 2008, I think it was, when you made your debut for the Springboks, and it was actually against Wales and against a certain Adam Jones, who's still knocking on the door and trying to get into our chat. So we can talk about him with impunity now, because he hasn't got the right to reply until he can hear us both. But there you were, running out in Cardiff's Millennium Stadium, up against a guy who's a national treasure in this part of the world. What were your first impressions of him?
No, I think Adam Jones was a formidable opponent. I think he was one of the best scrummages I ever scrummed down against. It was, for me, a huge privilege to scrum against him, in my first test. I remember, I was a young 22, 23-year-old, trying to make my mark on the big international stage. So, that Welsh game was, a special moment in my career. To make my debut in Pretoria at Loftus Versfeld, which is, Richard rugby history, was amazing. And we obviously got to win that game. I think, the game just went by so quickly. So, I can't remember much, but I remember that we were obviously, it was an even contest at scrum time. It was like literally engaging and nobody was moving either way. So, it was quite a good challenge for me, to kind of, start off my career. So, I'm grateful that I got to play against the Welsh.
Excellent. Any chance you could turn yourself up a tiny bit, Tendai? We're losing you a little bit there. You're such a beast on the field, but quite softly spoken off it.
Oh, geez. Can you? I hope you can hear me now.
That's a bit better.
Is it a bit better now?
That's much better. Keep it like that.
Okay, now sorry about that. I might have to come closer to the screen, yeah.
Hey, no worries. So there we are. Your debut against a bomb, Adam Jones. It was less than a year later. You'd be locking horns again in what has gone down in history as one of the absolute classics. Not just the duel between the Lions and South Africa, but a personal duel between you and Adam Jones from that second test onward, or the second half of the first test onwards.
Yeah, no, it was obviously, a massive thing for me to be part of that, British Irish Lions tour, because as you know, it only comes around 12 years in South Africa. So for me to kind of be a part of it, I was relishing the challenge. And in that first test match against the Lions, in Durban, I guess, it was in my backyard. I was just so hungry to get out there and perform, and then we obviously got the upper hand in that first test match, and the scrum was obviously a huge point of focus. It was a huge battle, but I guess the first game we got the upper hand, and in the second game, obviously Adam came on and made a huge difference. He told me a couple of lessons, which was really quite good for me for my career, because I learned so much, because he kind of turned it around. He pinned me. My neck was very sore the next day, I can tell you that. But I learned a hell of a lot in that series, in that entire series, because I was still young, I was still like 23, 24 years, a bit naive. But I learned a hell of a lot that I took, forward in my career.
You're a very modest and humble man, Tendai. I think it's time to bring in our other guest, and he doesn't really need much of an introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. It's in his contract. 95 caps for Wales, 5 for the Lions, which makes him an international centurion like yourself. 3 Grand Slams, one of only 7 Welshmen to have done that, and also a test-winning Lion in 2013, although not on that in 2009, as we mentioned. It is, of course, the bomb, Adam Jones. Welcome to the podcast. Amazing.
Hello.
There he is. Greetings, Adam. How are you, sir?
How are we, boys? Beast, how are you?
What's that?
You okay?
Hey, Adam, how you doing, brother? Good to see you, man.
Good, man. Good to see you. How are you keeping?
Good. No, keeping well, man. Yeah, life after rugby is quite daunting, man. So it's been quite a transition. And
Yes,
yourself,
yeah.
man?
We were reminiscing about the first time you ever came up against one another, because your careers have kind of been intertwined, and it was Bruce's debut against Wales and against your good self. And while he thought you were off mic or out of the room, he said his first impressions were that you had terrible hair and bad breath. Do you want to come back on that?
No, I'd probably agree with that. I'd agree with that.
Oh, Adam, I would never say that about you, right?
Nah, mate. I wouldn't blame you for it. It's very true. Nothing's changed. So.
Full disclosure, he didn't say that at all. He's far too much of a gentleman. Of course he didn't. But
Yeah, I know.
Give us your impression, Adam. Very humbly, Tendai just told us he was a young man. He had a lot to learn, and he felt very naive in those early days. But he had a reputation even before that first test.
Yeah, I think you had your first cap the year before on the 2008 tour with, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And I don't think I played in that test. I think I was rested for the second test, and or maybe dropped. But no, obviously the first test. As you said, in Durban, your own backyard. It was first test with Lions. South Africa is a huge occasion, isn't it? And to be fair, I was watching the first half thinking, well, I'm probably glad I'm not on there at the moment. So it was unbelievable, and it was amazing to see for me the World Cup final. Then 10 years later, you doing the same thing, and. So it was like me. Your longevity is amazing, but I was just glad to come on.
And I remember you saying,
Adam,
in your best-selling.
Hello.
Frozen. Hello,
You're frozen, Ross.
Yeah.
You're frozen.
Yeah, he's frozen. Yeah.
I mean, he's a tight Welshman. Probably got shocking internet.
Oh man, your internet is much better than us back here.
Oh well. What are you doing these days, then?
Oh man, I'm working, man. I'm running a security company in South Africa, and I'm studying.
Okay.
And I've got a foundation, so I've got a few things on the go, and obviously being a dad at the same time.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's keeping me busy.
Yeah, mate.
And your side,
I can imagine.
I see you've been at Harlequins now coaching, man. How's that going?
Yeah, it's all right. It's good. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's enjoyable though. We've got we've got Wilco Lowe plays with us now.
Yes. I saw Wilco, Andre,
yeah, Steph Levis. There's a few big tough South Africans which are trying to get us to side. So. They're good boys. They're good boys. They're doing well. But yes, I didn't expect coaching to be as hard as it was.
Oh, geez, I know it is quite demanding, man. But well done, man. Well done for accepting.
How long were you out in America for?
I was in America for like 3 months, man. Like so short, obviously, because I played for that team in DC, and then COVID came, and our season got scraped.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Oops, someone's on it.
Oh, I'm Mark.
Adam, I think you're right that we need to. I know Talk have got a Black Friday offer at the moment. I'm going to send Ross 20 quid in the post and see if he can boost himself up for Friday. So I'm a less than adequate replacement for the big man himself. But enjoying seeing you guys chat. How long has it been since you physically had a beer together?
Jeez. It's been ages. I think the last time I saw you was in Cardiff, man. Like I think when we played back in 2016 or 20.
Yeah, that was right.
Way back.
Yeah, I was strictly a fan then. I was watching from the stands. I'd been dropped and moved on. So I was. Yeah, I remember seeing you outside.
Outside Tiger. Was it Tiger?
Yeah, I think it was there. Yeah.
I saw you outside Tiger. That was the last time I saw you.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Good times.
The bits that we don't see, after you disperse from the game and we go in our own directions, what's generally the theme after a Lions test, and does that change as you progress through? So is it a bit more formal in the first test, and is it fancy dress on the third? How does it work post game with the socialising?
Well, certainly after the South African test series, after the second test, I was in hospital with a dislocated shoulder, having that put back in, and then I was back home in Wales for the third test. So I didn't. I was pretty much done. So yeah, I'm sure the South African boys celebrated much better than I did.
No, man, geez, it was a pretty you left after that second test in Loftus, but I guess we probably got to spend more time as the series went on. The last test in Joburg, I think we actually had a function together. I remember mixing and mingling, with the Lions boys. It was pretty cool, to obviously, share a beer.
Yeah.
After. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, let him keep talking.
It's weird when you just one of us on the screen. It's strange.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
yeah.
right. Yeah.
I'm back.
I'm like stressing
Technology. Have you been slagging me off?
So
Yeah, shit. Rubbish internet, too tight. terrible author.
Maybe my 6-year-old is playing on the Peppa Pig app or something. I've asserted my authority and we're back in business. I don't know where you got to, boys, but I was just keen to ask, those of us who've never played in the front row and never will and never wanted to, just give us an idea, if you both can, what exactly goes on when you pack down in front of 80,000 rabid fans at Loftus Versfeld or Joburg, wherever it may be, and those two colliding packs come together.
Well, I'll go just because of there was so much, because obviously what Beast did in the first test, there was obviously so much pressure on the Lions because we didn't, obviously we didn't do that well in the first test. So I just can remember the anthem, and then the sort of anticipation when it was a scrum, when it was one of those weird feelings when, right, this, as if something, big's going to happen just because of because what he did in the first test. So the whole crowd was just absolutely bouncing for it. And I remember my mate telling me he sat next to my dad, and my dad was so nervous, about the first scrum. He couldn't look at the pitch. He was gripping my mate's leg, and he was just shaking. And it's kind of when you got kids, you kind of realise, how it's a little bit, how emotional it is for them and all that.
What about you, Beast? How was that first scrum for you?
Yeah, I think Adam put it, to perspective. I guess, for both packs, for the Lions pack and for us, the scrum meant so much, so there was almost like this tension in the air, before every scrum you could literally, you could touch it, there was, so much emotion and so much noise from the crowd. So it kind of obviously hyped it up a bit more. But I guess when when you went down and came together, the forces between the two packs, it's immense. You feel like your neck is gonna break, man. Your back as well. So I can tell you, yeah. So you only, because of that adrenaline rush, you don't really feel it in the moment. But after the game, you're like, you can't turn around, you can't look either left or right, man. It's because of the pressure.
Sounds amazing. It sounds horrendous.
Yeah. And you've got to add in that you're in the high altitude, so you're struggling to breathe anyway with the thin air. So it's a recipe for disaster.
Tendai, there are some conspiracy theorists who claim to this day that Bakkies Botha deliberately took out Adam Jones because Adam Jones could have been the key to the Lions' success on that tour. What do you say to that?
What a load of rubbish. What a load of rubbish.
Adam answered it. I didn't say anything.
Because I've heard on the grapevine that despite his fearsome reputation and his hard man image, he's actually a bit of a teddy bear, isn't he? Bakkie?
Nah, he's actually chilled off the field. Obviously, when he was playing, but when he was on the field, man, he was destructive. Even when we played each other, with those local derbies and everything, he was hard, man. He would always look you would always make sure you know where he is. Don't get into a ruck if he's coming to that ruck, because he can hurt you. Yeah.
That's where I went wrong.
Yeah, so I should have warned you before the game, man.
10 years too late.
So,
I was trying to have a little rest in the middle of the game. You know, as I said, it was high altitude. I was a bit tired. I was trying to have a little rest on the side, and then this big 6'6" 20-stone South African comes and wipes me out.
I should have.
All us fans, that's what we remember about that series, was the brutality of it, the physicality of it, and you know, Bon, that scene of you getting your shoulder put back in or attempting to get it put back in the medics room, and the fact that however many people went off, Driscoll went off, Jamie Roberts went off, Tommy Bowe went off, you all woke up in a ward together the next day, didn't you?
Well, no, definitely in an ambulance after the game back to the hotel, and Gethin Jenkins got injured as well, which was on the plus side. He broke his cheekbone and couldn't speak for a while, so that was one of the good things to come out of the game, that he got hurt a bit. But it was brutal. It was, you know, they were. Yeah, you look at that. The pack, South African pack, was probably one of the great Springbok packs with obviously Bismarck, Smith, the second rows, Johan Smith, Spies, Berger, Rousseau. It was like, it was an unbelievable pack to play against, and it was, the fact we actually there was only 6 of us in the hospital. It was quite an achievement, I thought.
It always has an extra spice, doesn't it, when the team that the Lions are touring are the reigning world champions. It's happened several times over the last few tours. It was the case in 2009 when South Africa had won the World Cup. In 2007, it was the case again last time out when New Zealand were world champions. In 2001, when Australia were world champions. And Tendai, as luck would have it, it's the same again this time around. South Africa are the world champions, so the Lions know they're testing themselves against the very best. That just adds another level, doesn't it, of anticipation to this tour.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. There's already so much hype, around the tour because, we played England in that final, and a lot of people are saying the bulk of the team is going to be made up of English players. So it's basically going to be a bit of a revenge kind of test match in that first one, especially. So yeah, I think there's so much hype, but I guess that's what makes the Lions series so exciting, man. You get to face the best opposition from the Northern Hemisphere, and then obviously now the Springboks being the world champions, you got the best in the Southern Hemisphere. So it's a clash of a clash between two giants, and the best one win.
And Bom, you've been on 2 of them, and we always hear the word unique when the Lions tours are talked about. I mean, you've toured lots with Wales in lots of exotic locations. What is it about Lions tours that makes them that much different?
It's obviously it's the coming together, the 4 teams and all that, which is different straight away. But honestly, you go to South Africa and New Zealand, and they're the hotbeds of traditional rugby countries, and everywhere you go, you feel it. There's always that pressure on you. There's always the teams are. They raise like you go to Australia, it was a little bit we kind of the 4th, 5th big thing going on at the time with cricket, football, and all this type of stuff. So going to South Africa, they're always physical, and they always test you. We played I think it was the Kings in Port Elizabeth for the first test, and it was unbelievable how up for it we call it. We'll some of the shots going in and stuff.
Was that not the game Nigel Owens reffed as well?
It was a game Nigel Owens reffed, yeah, and it was.
He gave you no favours.
It was a traditional, softening up, and certainly they did, and but you go to South Africa, so rugby is it's an amazing place to tour, and it's as a rugby player, going to New Zealand, South Africa, and the Lions tour is the sort of the pinnacle you can go to.
As 2 men who love their food, from a culinary point of view, is it the best place to tour?
I'd like to think so, yeah. Argentina's pretty good, but South Africa holds its own.
Yeah, no shortage of red meat out there.
No, God no.
Tendai sort of mentioned it there, the sort of English bias. We as Welshmen, Adam, have been sort of lucky in a way that the last couple of Lions tours we've had a healthy Welsh representation, including in 2013 where it dominated the party. it's a bit of a way out, and there's another 6 nations to come before that squad is selected. What do you anticipate the balance being this time around?
Oh, I think you can't look much past England. They'll be, the Irish obviously doing well, the provinces, but no, I think England have got such a strong team at the moment. Obviously, there's going to be Welsh boys in there. Gats knows guys, Gats trusts players, and but certainly England, there's so much depth there. So they've got some unbelievable players, and it's how many sort of of the Celtic nations, how many of those players can push their way into it, I think.
So who are the favourites, Tendai?
Who are the favourites? I guess, the world champions, the Springboks. I'll say that because we're world champions. But the fact of the matter is that, the Lions are going to come out to prove a point. There's a lot at stake. So, I think there's huge motivation on both sides. We're playing in our backyard. So, I think the Springboks will be highly motivated. So, it's just going to be who wants it the most, So, I'm very excited to see the clashes to come,
Look, boys, I know you're both incredibly busy. I think, Tendai, you've got a dissertation to write or something before you go to bed tonight.
Oh, wow.
For your MBA. I think, Adam, you've got to do your 1,000 press-ups that you do every night.
and sit-ups.
So we're not going to keep you much longer, but I do want to, just before you go, little quiz question, because we're going to talk about the tourism aspect once you guys have gone. Little quiz called Two Truths and a Lie, where we're going to check out which of you has got the best South African knowledge. Obviously, it might be weighted a bit in Tendai's favour, this one. 3 facts. One of them's a lie, 2 of them are the truth. And I just want you to tell me which one you think is which. So fact number 1, at almost 710 feet, South Africa is home to the world's highest natural commercial bungee jump. That's number 1. Number 2, the first human heart transplant took place in 1967 in Cape Town. First human transplant in the world took place in 1967 in Cape Town. And number 3, being the southernmost country on the continent of Africa, South Africa is the closest country to Antarctica.
Yeah, that's true.
3 facts. 2 of them are the truth. 1 of them is a lie. Do you want to hear them again?
No, you want to hear them again, Adam?
I haven't got a clue either way, so I'm...
What's your best guess, Adam?
I'd go the bungee jump. I'll go the bungee jump.
You think that's a lie?
Yeah.
Tendai, which do you think is the lie?
The lie is the heart transplant.
Interestingly, gents, both of those facts are the truth. The lie is that South Africa is the closest country to Antarctica. There's actually 4 countries closer. Chile, Argentina, Australia, and New Zealand. So that's a draw, which bodes well for the Lions. Because hopefully it'll be a draw after the first 2 tests, and we can have an exciting decider. But, gents, it's been an absolute pleasure, as always, to speak to you both. Very grateful to you to coming on. I know you've both got busy evenings ahead of you, but we're very much looking for catching up with you, if not on tour, then certainly beforehand. So thank you very much indeed from behalf of us and everyone watching here tonight. Tendai Beast Mtawarira, Adam the Bomb Jones. The 2 of you.
Good to see you, mate. Good to see you, Ruff.
No, good to see you too. Good to see you, Adam. Thank you, Ross. Thanks.
Hopefully have a beer next year.
Definitely. We must.
Good man.
Yeah. No.
Take care, boys. Farewell.
Cheers.
And
Cheers,
I did promise you 2 legends, and that's exactly what we've just had. And just brilliant memories of that epic confrontation back in 2009, where you genuinely didn't know which way it was going to go. And I think us British and Irish probably still think it was one that got away. I'm sure the South Africans think differently about it. They think they were deserved winners. But plenty more of that sort of stuff to come between now and the tour in 2021, and we'll be catching up. Those of you who are coming with us to South Africa will be catching up with Beast, definitely on the ground, possibly Bomb. Don't know his travel arrangements just yet, but wouldn't that be a night to remember if we can see the 2 of them again out there. And speaking of being out there and what to do, we're going to introduce another guest to enter the fray now, from South Africa, a South African expert. It is Rachel Lewis. How are you, Rachel? Good evening.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Now, I understand you're British by birth, but South African by choice.
By choice, yeah.
Are you coming to us from South Africa now, or are you in Britain?
I'm in the UK at the moment. I'm actually in Leicestershire. I'm coming to you from Leicestershire today. But yeah, South Africa by accident, I think. My boyfriend is South African, and he thinks our cats are half South African. And but I've been there 22 times, so it does feel like a bit of a second home now.
Well, I suppose the critical way to decide which you are most is to ask you who you're going to be supporting in 2021.
Well, the Lions. The Lions.
You know your audience. And now Tendai's gone. You're in good company.
We did have a bit of a so with final last November, we did have a bit of a, because South Africa pays my wages and my boyfriend pays my way a bit as well. So he was thinking that I was voting against my own interests by wearing my England top.
It's the kind of thing that can end in divorce. So we have to negotiate this one quite diplomatically. Exactly. But I'm glad you're being honest. Tell us about the situation on the ground in South Africa now, then, because we've all been glued to the news over the last 6 months and praying for some good news. And as Mark and I were saying at the top of the show, we've been having plenty of good news in the last few days and weeks. So would you like to give us some more?
Yeah. So, I mean, South Africa's doing really well. They're not new to dealing with outbreaks and disease control and things. They're actually very good at community screening and limiting transmission. So in terms of the way that they dealt with it, they knew what the risks were going to be, so they locked down really hard. They have got a very young population. They're coming into summer, and the restrictions have been eased, and it's a very outdoor place anyway. So when you're down in South Africa, you spend all of your time outdoors, which we know is from all of the news reports we see over here. It is very, it's actually more difficult to transmit outdoors. However, recently the president, even though he brought South Africa down to level 1 and then had kind of opened up international travel a little bit, he basically announced that all you needed to get into the country was a negative PCR test, again, to say you were negative for COVID. So that was just some of the best news. We saw a lot of Brits who, there was a lot of, they had to get permission to travel, they wanted to go down, and a lot of British people have now actually gone down and, with their negative tests, and they're going to say that, people go for a long period of time over the summer. I mean, it's pitch black outside and it's beautiful summer. So yeah, so that's really good news. And then obviously the vaccinations and all of this stuff, it's all very exciting.
Mark, this must be music to your ears.
Yeah, but we've always had belief.
Yeah, to be fair.
What amazes me that a lot of people in our industry and our customers seem to think that we know as much as the good folk from Oxford, and we've just had tremendous belief that the Lions Tour is going to be the first big major sporting event that's going to benefit from coming out of this pandemic with some panache, and with the fans coming back into the stadiums next week, subject to what tier that falls in. So Rachel in Leicestershire, if you're a Leicester City fan, you may not be able to get into it.
Tigers.
Oh, you're a Tigers fan? Okay, well, I suppose the same rules apply, but you pop over on the borders and catch the game. But if you're in the right area, then up to, if it's correct, I understand it, up to 4,000 fans can go into the stadiums in the UK, and that just breeds confidence, breeds travel confidence.
It certainly does. And Rachel, I've been very fortunate to have been on a number of Lions tours, and as sort of Tendai was making a point there about the importance of these tours to the country. I've seen firsthand that massive influx of fans, 30,000 plus fans traveling to the countries in question, and there's no doubt that kind of presence has a massive impact on the economy of the country they're visiting.
I mean, absolutely. The other big thing is obviously July, August is it's winter in South Africa. I say winter because it doesn't really get that cold. So, you know, it is our low season. So you'll see a lot of people traveling, very much peak season for South Africans traveling, for Brits traveling to South Africa is December through to March. But July and August, having that many fans injected into the country, it does wonders. It does wonders for the economy. It's a time of year when, you know, earnings are down anyway within the tourism sector. So to have the boost is really important. And of course, rugby fans are generally a little bit more kind of outgoing. They'll spend their money in the places where it really counts. And any kind of positivity, when countries see positivity, it kind of just kind of, you know, you saw it in the World Cup in 1995, and it's such a shame we didn't get the World Cup again, but you'll see in the Lions, communities love it. They love sport. They really kind of get behind it. It's some of the best time. It's going to be amazing. If I can get out there, I definitely will. It's and yeah, as you said, the economy will be crying out for it, especially after such a prolonged lockdown.
And for those who haven't been, and you said you've been, 22 times, so you've probably covered every inch of ground up there. It is a beautiful country, a diverse country, so much on offer. And obviously a lot of the people going with MSG are going for the rugby first and foremost. But while they're there, they can have such an adventure, can't they? If you had to recommend 3 things off the top of your head that they simply have to do, what would they be?
You have to go on safari. You have to go to a game reserve. You have to see the animals. We're not just, you know, it's a big 5. We are a big 5 country, and everyone knows that, you know, the big 5 is there to tick off. But it's not just that. It's everything. I remember sitting on last year on safari, looking at I mean, this is kind of gross, but looking at a pile of rhino dung filled with dung beetles, and it was fascinating. And we were there for probably about half an hour actually in the end, watching them come out, because it's not just the big elephants and the, you know, the lions and the cheetahs, etc. It's the tiny little things. And we know that bird watching is massive in South Africa. You've got something like 800, 900 species you can find, and just being in the bush, being outside, I've said outside a lot during this, but I miss it. I miss being outside as much as I am in South Africa, sitting on your game vehicle in, you know, when they turn off the engine and you're watching, maybe it's just some zebra, but it's just peace and quiet, and everything is so relaxing. And then they always stop in the evening for sundowners, and in the bush, gin and tonic. It's one of my favorite places to be in the world. Second thing I would say is, it's still wildlife, but if you can get to the coast and get out and see, you know, down at Hansby or down in near Cape Town, you've got so much marine life, the African penguins, the whales, the dolphins, and all of that. They're kind of, it's the other side of South Africa. So you've got the bush, but what they say, the bush and the blue. And the blue is, we've got some of the most diverse marine life in the world in South Africa. So, and it's, again, it relies on tourism. Conservation isn't a big earner. People don't invest in conservation because there's no return on investment. So the model is very much around tourism funding conservation, and the blue definitely relies on that. And the third thing, try and get to a restaurant that does shizinyama or braai. It's basically food cooked over coals. You go to a thing that looks like a butcher's, you choose your meat, they give you a tray, you take it to some guys who braai it for you, and you sit there and you eat it with your fingers, and there's music on, there's everyone around, and it is just, that's South Africa for me. Those are the 3 things. They're my 3 things that just came straight to my head.
I'm glad Adam Jones has gone, because otherwise you'd have been a grown man salivating on screen after what you just described. Sounds absolutely phenomenal. A vegetarian's nightmare, but there's probably not too many of them in MSG, I'd imagine, or if there are, I'm sure there are suitable alternatives.
Always.
While you're there, we just had Scott Wilson come on our public message board saying, "Come on the Tigers," and a thumbs up to Rachel. So that's 2 people admitting to supporting the Tigers at the moment. I thought you'd all gone into hiding after the last couple of seasons.
Well, they played okay at the weekend. So you know,
Start of a renaissance.
we're just gonna be tentatively happy about that.
Little steps. Rachel, I believe you've got. We talked about Siya Kolisi earlier with Tendai, and he expressed his admiration for the big man and the fact that he should probably be the next Prime Minister, President, King of South Africa. I believe you've got a little Siya Kolisi anecdote of your own, haven't you?
I do have a Siya Kolisi anecdote. Someone told you. I was in South Africa in January, and we were doing some filming with Greg Wallace, who is a big Wasps fan, incidentally, massive Tigers, and massive rugby fan. Was very, very uncomplimentary about the Tigers, actually, but he was staying in a lovely hotel in Cape Town, and we were slumming it down the other end of town, and I had to go and collect him one day from the hotel. And as we pulled up, I said to my driver, I was like, I mean, if I'm as good at recognizing back of people's heads as I think I am, I think that's Siya Kolisi walking into that hotel. And my driver was like, yeah, man, you're right, that is. And I mean, it was quite one of those moments when you see somebody who's so imposing and so kind of, and this was just the back of him that I had in my frame. So I quickly skirted past him into the hotel, and Greg was walking down, and he was holding some shirts that he was giving in to be ironed. And I was like, Greg. I was like, Siya Kolisi is walking into the hotel right now. And he's like, what, where? Like, it was 7 a.m. He was like, what? And I was like, no, Siya Kolisi, captain of the Springboks, walking into the hotel right now. I have never seen a man suddenly change like that. Like, at that point, I'd spent 2.5 weeks with Greg Wallace, and he is, there was a lot of Brits in South Africa, so he was getting a lot of attention, and he was just very good. He was very good at kind of like dealing with the attention and being very, like, you know, jovial and nice to people all the time and stuff. And it was just really nice to see it flipped. So he then was like, like he said to Siya, he was there, he went, I'm a rugby coach in the UK, because he's a rugby coach. He was like, and I can't tell you how amazing it is to bump into you, like blah blah blah. And then it was kind of like an afterthought that he was like, oh, you know, I also judged Masterchef and blah blah. And Siya was really lovely. And then I just got to do a bit of a, hi Siya, I'm Rachel, I work for South African Tourism, and can I just say that I think that what you've done for the country and your profile and everything is just amazing, and I'm just so happy that you're bringing positivity, and congratulations on such a good win, and blah, 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 blah. And I took a photo of Greg with him, and yeah, off we went. And afterwards he was a little bit starstruck.
Was he now? Greg Wallace starstruck, and Siya Kolisi is the most humble man on earth, isn't he? So he probably would have been mortified at the hero worship that Wallace was showing.
But he had so much time. Like, he was very, very generous with his time as well, because obviously he's just so in demand.
And speaking of being generous, I believe South African Tourism has donated a prize. We've talked about the fund this evening, the Beast Foundation Fund, and how we're hoping to raise R1 million for the charities nominated. And I think we're about 25% of the way there. If you go online between now and midnight tonight and pledge £5 or more if you wish to, but a minimum of £5, you get entered into a raffle to win what sounds like a very appealing prize. Rachel, do you want to give us some more information?
Yeah, it's 1,500 rand towards an adventure activity in Cape Town of your choice. Now, we're going to suggest you do abseiling off the top of Table Mountain or paragliding off the top of Signal Hill, because both of those are so iconic. But it has to be something adventurous. You can't just use it to go out for dinner. It has to be something that gets your adrenaline pumping. You get to see some of Cape Town and really push yourself.
Quite right too. Fancy a bit of that, Mark?
Oh, it sounds absolutely incredible. I've been to South Africa not as many times as Rachel. In fact, nowhere near as many times as Rachel. And only on one occasion have I been there where Table Mountain's being open, because the mist comes down so quickly. And on the last trip, seeing people rappelling off the side and doing all the crazy stuff there, it's very much on the bucket list. So maybe, Ross, if we get some time after the second test, maybe 7 a.m. on the 1st of August next year when everyone else is sleeping, after a big thirsty night in Cape Town. You and I we can bunk up and chuck ourselves off. What do you think?
Well, yeah, because we'd have had an early night, wouldn't we? And been ultra professional.
Standard.
Absolutely.
Sounds like a date to me. David Rees has just mentioned on the message board here the best thing for him visiting South Africa is meeting such friendly people. And it's somebody you've touched on already, Rachel. You know, the welcome people will get. You know, it is one of those countries where people follow themselves to make you feel at home.
And and smiles. Just smile. People will just smile at you all the time. It's great. It's lovely. That's why I want this pandemic to be over, because I don't want to go to South Africa and see everyone with masks on their face.
Absolutely. You want to give people a hug, don't you?
What is he?
Well, hopefully everything we've talked about tonight, you know, the news about the vaccines, the restrictions being lifted, as I mentioned at the start, we can take bold strides towards this tour now rather than tentative baby steps. It very much feels like it's happening. And as Mark said, they've always had the faith. They've always had the optimism. So let me just repeat then, if you want to be in with a shout of winning that travel voucher to do something that all adrenaline junkies would love, jump off a mountain, jump out of a plane, whatever it may be, make sure you go on the Just Giving site. I think we're going to see it now. 1 million rand project. Donate £5 or more and your name will automatically be entered into the hat to win that. And there is another prize as well of a year's supply of Lekker coffee, one of the sponsors of this show this evening. And that gives me an appropriate time to tell you that this Lekker Lounge was brought to you by MSG Tours in partnership with South Africa Tourism, thanks to Rachel, the Lekker Food Company, who make the coffee. That's one of the prizes. And we are proudly supporting, as I mentioned, the Beast Foundation. So don't forget to go on that site before midnight tonight and pledge £5 or more. But that is about it from us guys here. Thanks ever so much for joining us. Our thanks as well, of course, to Adam Jones and to Tendai Mtawarira, two legends of the game. We'll hopefully be hearing more from them in the months to come. Thank you very much, Rachel, for your positivity and enthusiasm and your stories.
Pleasure.
We'll catch up with you again soon. And to Mark as well, as always, big man, for keeping the ship steered in the right direction. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we haven't seen him much tonight, but behind the scenes, Joe has been expertly pushing all the buttons and making sure that this goes technically without a hitch. And one hitch we did have was my fault for my cheap internet, as Adam Jones charitably pointed out. But yep, that's it, guys. Thanks ever so much for watching. This will be available to download or stream and watch at your leisure again if you choose to do so. But the next Lekker Lounge is coming up on the 21st of December, and I'm sure we'll have an equally delightful and enticing menu for you then. But until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all very soon. Safe travels, everyone.